let's move over and talk a little bit of West Virginia Mountaineer football. Fall camp. Fall camp is in the air, baby. July 31st is when the Mountaineers start fall camp. So let's talk a little Mountaineer football. What do you say?
Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident, are fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com.
For those of you who aren't West Virginia fans, stick around. You might learn something about the Mountaineers. If you are a Mountaineer fan, hopefully you're excited about finally football is right around the corner. I'm sure Neil Brown will probably talk to the media next week at some point. It's press conference season. I'm looking forward to that. But let me do another quick screen share here. I'm going to bring up the football roster for the 20 depth chart for the 20 preseason depth chart for the 2024 season. This is courtesy of my good friends over at WV Sports Now. As you can see, no ads on the page. Why is that? Because I am a member of the Holler over there. If you want to become a member of the Holler and get access to their ad-free content and their behind-the-scenes content, you can get a discount. Use promo code Couz at checkout. Go to their website, wvsportsnow.com. Go to join the Holler at checkout. Type in Couz, C-O-U-Z. You get a 40% discount on a one-year membership. You get to be a member of the Holler for only $20.99 for 1 full year. Full price, you'd be paying without the Couz code, $34.99. So take advantage of it. But anyway, let's get into the depth chart. Obviously, quarterback, no surprise here. Garrett Green, senior. Nico Marchio, redshirt sophomore, no surprise. The interesting thing here will be who gets the third string spot. Will it be Ryder Burton, the transfer from BYU, or will it be Khalil Wilkins? I would put my money on Ryder Burton, who already has 1 year of experience at a Power 5 program. Whereas Khalil Wilkins is coming in as a true freshman and was not able to participate in spring ball. Excuse me. So he's going to be behind the curve a little bit. So I'm giving the edge there to Ryder Burton as a third stringer. We've heard great things about Nico and how he's looked in the spring. So, if Garrett was to go down again this year like he did last year, I think Nico will be able to come in and they won't necessarily miss a beat. They might miss a beat, but it won't be 2 beats or 3 beats. Maybe like they did last year where he may not have been quite ready yet. Now, let's go down to running backs. Again, no surprise. It says Jaheim White or C.J. Donaldson. I'd say we'll see those two guys splitting carries a lot. Don't be surprised if Thompson has a few good games as well this year. He's going to get the rocks on. The Z wide receiver, which is one of your outside guys, Preston Fox or Traylon Ray. Again, both of those guys are going to get a lot of snaps. So I don't put a lot of, I don't really think you can give one guy the edge there over the other one. The H receiver, which is one of your inside receivers, Rodney Gallagher, sophomore, listed as a first stringer. Rick Darius Farmer, a true freshman coming in from the state of Florida. They call him Day-Day. He's listed in the 2 deep, guys, and he just now got there in the summer, and they already have him in the 2 deep. That shows you how talented this young man is. I can't wait to see him in the old gold and blue. The X receiver, which is the other outside receiver, Hudson Clement or Jaden Bray, who's a transfer from Oklahoma State. Again, both of those guys are going to get a lot of snaps. So I don't really know that you can give one the edge over the other one. Tight end, Cole Taylor and Traylon Davis as a backup. No surprises there. Offensive line, there's no oars on the offensive line. It's going to be Wyatt Milam, left tackle, Tomas Remack, left guard, Brandon Yates at center, Jaquay Herbert at right guard, and Nick Malone at right tackle. Their backups are Johnny Williams, Sully Weedman, Landon Livingston, Nick Cray, Xavier Boston. Now, that can all change. Some of these guys may get beat out at spring and fall camp. Somebody could get injured. You could see a name pop up on the 2 deep that we're not seeing now. Or, heck, who knows? You could see one of these backups perform so well in fall camp that they earn a starting spot. But right now, this is what they're expecting to start on August 31st against Penn State. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Probably more questions here than on the offensive side. You've got Sean Martin listed as the defensive end spot. New number for Sean at number 5. And by the way, I forgot to mention the number changes on offense too, guys. You've got Rodney Gallagher has changed from number 2 to number 24. I think that's in case he decides he wants to play some defense. It'll allow him to do that. Hudson Clement, it lists him at number 84 here, but last week we found out he's actually changing his number to number 3. So that's just 2 number changes of note. Sean Martin, before the season, changed his number to 5 to honor his late friend, Tony Webster, who passed away at Bluefield High School a few years back. He and Sean Martin were really close friends, and Sean wanted to honor him, and he's able to do that this year, that he's a senior. I'm expecting big things from Sean Martin this year. He's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. He played banged up a lot last year. He's not banged up now. He's going to be healthy. It's his senior year. He knows he can play himself into a high draft pick spot if he plays well. So I expect Sean Martin to come out and play like a man possessed and have a really big 2024 season. Right behind him, you've got TJ Jackson, very highly touted transfer from from Troy. I expect him to come in and have a good year as well. And I think he'll get a lot of snaps. You've got Tor Simmons as the third guy there. Nose tackle, Fatorma Mulba, the transfer from Penn State who looked good last year, or Hammond Russell. I'm actually surprised to see an or there. That shows me that Hammond Russell looked good in the spring, and he could push Fatorma Mulba for that starting spot. And, of course, you see Nate Gabriel there as the third stringer, or the second stringer, I guess, in this case. Edward Vestorinen at D tackle with Asani Redwood backing him up. Hopefully Asani can be healthy this year, finally. They expect big things from him if he can stay healthy. What used to be the bandit position, now called the spur. Have Tyron Bradley, the senior, listed there with Ty French, the transfer from Gardner-Webb, I think it was, as his backup. But we've heard great things about Ty French. They said he's really fast coming off the ball on that edge. So we may actually see both of those guys on the field at the same time quite a bit this year, I expect. Josiah Trotter listed as a starting weak side linebacker along with an or alongside Ben Cutter. Really high expectations for Josiah Trotter. He likely could have started last year as a true freshman. He's that talented. But unfortunately, an ACL injury took him out for the year. We all know Ben Cutter kind of got thrown to the wolves last year as a true freshman when Trey Lathan went down with an injury. That experience is going to be very valuable for him coming into 2024. But he's listed there as the or, so we don't know which one of those guys will win the starting spot. It's going to be good. There's going to be a lot of competition at his middle linebacker spot. When you look at middle linebacker spot, still you've got Trey Lathan listed there as your starter. No surprise after the year he was having before he went out with an injury last year. He was leading the team in sacks, I believe, or at least he was leading this team in quarterback hurries or one of those categories. Then you've got Caden Beiser or Reed Carrico here. Now, I'm a little surprised here. Caden Beiser apparently has looked really good in the spring because they brought Reed Carrico, the transfer over from Ohio State. They claimed he looked really, really good in spring, but Caden Beiser apparently is pushing him for that backup role. So it's good to see that. Good to see the competition. Aubrey Burks has moved over to the spear position this year. The senior, he said in an interview earlier this year that it's his contract year. He's playing like this is a contract year. He's playing for that NFL contract. He's playing for that draft pick. He wants to get drafted, and he wants to get drafted high. He's going to play well. Also, the fact you see Zay Jennings, a true freshman here in the 2 deep on this list, shows how high they are on him. We heard nothing but great things about him throughout the spring. I expect big things from Zay Jennings. Josiah Jackson, redshirt freshman listed, along with Kokor Tarnu, the transfer redshirt senior from Jacksonville State, listed as one of your starters at the corner. At cat safety, with Israel Boyce there backing them up. But they're very high on Kokor Tarnu, the long, lengthy athletic corner or safety, that they brought over from – that C keeps throwing me off. I keep wanting to say corner. But the long, athletic safety they brought over from Jacksonville State who played for Coach Rod over there. We all know Coach Rod can coach them up, so that's good. And then Josiah Jackson, the redshirt freshman, I'm glad to see him there. We've heard good things about him and his work throughout the last couple of seasons. And then Anthony Wilson will start at free safety more than likely, the redshirt senior who transferred in last year from either Georgia Southern, I believe it was. It could have been Georgia State, but I think it was Georgia Southern. Jaheim Joseph, the transfer from Northwestern, expected to be his backup. Left corner, we got Aiden Garnes, the redshirt junior from Duquesne, who transferred over, expected to start there. His backup will be TJ Crandall, the transfer from Colorado State, or Jordan Jackson, Josiah Jackson's twin. Again, this is all fluid. This is preseason depth chart. It can all change. Right corner right now is Garnet Hollis, the transfer from Northwestern. Behind him is Jacoby Spells, and behind him is Dantes Fagan. Special teams, you've got Michael Hayes as your kicker. Leighton Bechtel as your holder, Oliver Straw as your punter, Michael Hayes doing kickoffs, Austin Brinkman, who Phil Steele had listed as first team All Big 12 long snapper. I had a gentleman on who works for the East West Shrine Bowl, actually oversees the East West Shrine Bowl. He actually says Austin Brinkman might be the best long snapper in the country, and he expects Austin Brinkman to have an NFL career. So shout out to Austin Brinkman, the long snapper. Kick returner, right now they have Hudson Clement and Preston Fox there, and they also have Preston Fox as a punt returner and Rodney Gallagher backing him up. So let me know what you think on the depth chart. Any surprises there on the depth chart? Let me go down and see if we got any more super chats here. No more super chats in the house. Do we have any? Daniel Gigak says, I'm just hoping the receivers don't have as many drops last year. Agreed. I think I read an article that had, if you take away the drops, I think Garrett Green's completion percentage would have been 62% versus 53. I don't remember where I read that at, but I thought I saw. But again, every team has drops, but West Virginia, hopefully West Virginia receivers can minimize their drops. Jordan Couz, great comment here. And by the way, Jordan Couz is the host of Country Roads webcast. Go check out his channel if you haven't. He's very good at keeping up with the West Virginia Mountaineers roster, any roster changes that may occur. He keeps track of that better, as good as about anyone out there. But Jordan Couz says, still surprised that Justin Robinson isn't currently listed on the 2 deep receiver. We've got a lot of guys there that will see playing time. Great point, Jordan. I did not even think about that when I was reading through this depth chart. Justin Robinson, the transfer from Mississippi State, is not listed in the 2 deep. Doesn't mean he can't earn a spot in the 2 deep before fall camp's over, but it is interesting nonetheless. He's like 6'3", 6'4", very long, very athletic. So I'm definitely surprised there. Cheers Beers and Mountaineer says he has high hopes for Gallagher this season, was highly recruited and played some great snaps. He always had some freshman jitters, it seemed. If he gets rid of those, he could have a year. Guys, I have got to step away for just 1 second. Pardon me. Got a very important call coming in. Sorry about that. That was my dad calling. I wanted to make sure it wasn't anything important. Anyway, yeah, Jordan very surprised as well. WV football alert, or W football going deep, says Robinson only signed officially shortly before the media guide came out, I think, which would have made it hard to put him on the depth chart. And that's very possible. WV Force. I want to say forced if you don't mind, but go check out his show, WV Football Going Deep. Jordan says my live is helping him get through his work shift. Well, Jordan, man, I'm glad I can help you, man. Glad I can help you out. The family's not here right now. They're out. The girls are out shopping. I had some free time. I want to get on here and I want to talk West. I've been wanting to talk West Virginia football. There just hadn't been a whole lot to talk about, so I want to get on here and do this. And then also, obviously, want to give my thoughts on the house settlement stuff too. And WV football going deep makes a good point. The drops seem to not be an issue after 4 games because they went young there. Kind of changed out the personnel, and that's a great point. Great point. WV Mountaineer with Kenny has some comments here I want to get to. Let me see. Jordan, as a coach, you don't show your surprises. Oh, he's talking about the Justin Robinson thing. I don't think that's it as much, Kenny. I think it's more or less just like maybe what Forrest had to say, and that's he got added to the team so late they probably just didn't put him on the depth chart. I don't think he's a secret necessarily, but it could be. You never know. Neil's not afraid to do some gamesmanship occasionally. especially for a team like Penn State. David Z's in the house. Thank you for joining the show, David. He says, no, don't talk West Virginia football. Just messing with you, Couz. Yeah, David, appreciate you being in here, my man. Anyway, the key position battles I want to talk about here on this depth chart that I just went over, as I pulled it up again, the key position battles to me, where we could see some changes are, again, at running back, you're going to see both of those guys carry the rock, so I'm not sure it really matters. Same with receiver. You're going to see all those guys get reps and catch passes. You could see Xavier Bosley challenge Nick Malone for that starting spot. I think Xavier Bosley is extremely talented. Another transfer from Jacksonville State. He's very talented. Could potentially push Nick Malone for that starting spot there. I think Brandon Yates is solid at center. I think really all the linemen are, maybe with the exception of right tackle. But again, I still think Nick Malone has the edge there because of his experience and the chemistry that he'll have with the other linemen, which is extremely important up front. Defensively, and I'm talking about positions that may not necessarily have an or beside their name here, by the way. Again, I think we'll see Tyron Bradley and Ty French on the field at the same time quite often. Would not be surprised to see Reed Carrico take over that second string spot there behind Trey Lathan at linebacker. We've heard glowing things about him. Would not be surprised if Couz Turnu ends up starting because of his length and his athleticism. But again, a lot of times when guys transfer up from a lower level, it takes them a few games to adjust to the speed. We saw it with Anthony Wilson last year. The year before that, we saw it with the transfer kid we had from Colorado State. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Not last year. I'm sorry, the 2022 season. We saw it take him a year or two to catch up to the speed of the game. But very talented players. But you're used to playing at a certain speed, a certain level of competition, and it takes some time to adjust. Could see that with Couz Turnu. Could also see it with Aiden Garnes, who they have listed here as a starter at left corner. Could see that with Aiden Garnes. Could also see it with TJ Crandall. Hopefully not. But, you could see those guys take some adjustment. Whereas you've got like Garner Hollis, for example, he's coming over from a Power 5 program. Could he be the next Beanie Bishop? I'm not saying he's going to be a consensus All-American, but can he be that guy who really is a stopper at the cornerback spot for West Virginia? I think he has the ability to be. We'll see. He's going to let us know for sure. And again, I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Jaheim Joseph, even if he doesn't beat out Anthony Wilson at that free safety spot. We know that West Virginia likes to move guys around, especially in that defensive secondary. Jaheim Joseph could end up playing one of the other safety spots at some point, or maybe even a corner spot. I think he's a true safety, but it wouldn't be surprised if they move him around a lot. But I do expect Anthony Wilson. I think Anthony Wilson gets overshadowed a little bit. He's so small. He's only like 5'9", but man, he's a really good football player. He's tough. He gets outmatched in coverage at times, and that's something he's going to have to work on. Especially when he has to cover tight ends coming across the middle who are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". But they can scheme around that, I feel, and I do think he's a really good football player. And I expect him to have he was actually first or second on the team in tackles a year ago. So I expect him to have another big season, an even better season. But hopefully he can shore up his coverage coming into this year. But anyway, that's some key position battles. Some players I expect to step up. I mentioned Sean Martin earlier. I think he's going to have a monster year. I expect Aubrey Burks to have a really good year because, again, he's playing with that chip on his shoulder. I expect Anthony Wilson to have a big year on defense. And up front, I really expect our defense. We're not going to be as deep. West Virginia's not going to be as deep on the defensive line as they were a year ago. But, man, the guys they have, Torma Mulba, Sean Martin, Edward Vestorina, I'm really high on those guys. Edward Vestorina is just a consistently good player. I think he'll take another step up. I'm really high on this defensive line. I think they're going to be extremely good. I think it'll be hard to run the football on this West Virginia D-line. And I've heard some concern from some of the other West Virginia media folks about West Virginia's linebacker position because they're so young and there's not a lot of depth there. If they can stay healthy, if that linebacker core can stay healthy, it's a big if, but if they can stay healthy, I'm really confident with the talent they have there. I think Trey Lathan, now that he's back from injury, I think he's going to have a monster year. It might take him a game or two to get back into the speed of things, but I think he can have a monster year, and I'm really high on him. And I'm really happy with, even though they're young at linebacker for the most part, I'm really happy with the talent. It might be the most talented linebacker core they've had top to bottom in a long time. Offensively, some guys I expect Garrett to have a big year. I think he's going to be one of the most talked about quarterbacks in the country, especially in the Big 12. I expect both running backs. Listen, Jaheim White's kind of been the talk of the town since last year because of how he came on late. Do not sleep on C.J. Donaldson. C.J. Donaldson played last season with a shoulder injury, folks. Almost the entire year he was out with a shoulder, or not out. Almost the whole year he was playing with a bad shoulder. That shoulder has been fixed with surgery. He's back to being healthy again. I think we will see the CJ that we saw in 2022, where he ran the ball like a man possessed. He's going to be hard to tackle. He's going to be a great 1-2 punch with Jaheim. Do not sleep on CJ Donaldson. He's probably, even though he and CJ are really close friends, they're also very competitive. And I'm sure CJ's tired of hearing about how great Jaheim White is. And he wants to go out and prove that he's great too. And I expect him to have a big year. This West Virginia running game, to me, if the offensive line can hold up and be at least close to as good as last year, I expect this West Virginia running game to be awesome. And I expect, a lot of people are questioning West Virginia's receiving core. I'm not. Yes, they're young. But, man, I'm telling you, Traylon Ray, guys, I don't think people understand. Traylon Ray came in late summer. He didn't just come in the summer. He came in late summer because his high school baseball team made it really far into the postseason. So he was late getting to Morgantown. He still was a starter by the end of the year as a true freshman. And I don't think he even touched his potential last year. I'm really high on Traylon Ray. You've got, and he even admitted he was very raw last year. He was very raw as a receiver. He's not going to be as raw now. He's going to be a better route runner. He's going to be a better blocker. We've heard Coach Scott rave about his blocking on the perimeter. He's going to be even better at that this year. I think Rodney Galler's going to take a step up this year. His athleticism is going to show this year. They'll get the ball in his hands more, find creative ways to get him the football. I expect him to have a big year. Hudson Clement's going to be even better this year. Maybe the fastest guy on the offense. Obviously, Jaden Bray from Oklahoma State, very good receiver. I'm really high on this offense, guys, and on this receiving core. I think they're arguably the most underrated receiving core in the Big 12, and I think they're going to show that this year. I think they're going to clean up the drops. I think they're going to they're all going to be better route runners. They're going to be better blockers. I'm really excited about it. Cole Taylor, very, very undervalued tight end. I think he has a potential. There's going to be a couple really good tight ends in the Big 12. Obviously, Brant Keithy with with Utah. And then you've got the young man from Iowa State. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. I think Cole Taylor has a shot to be as good. I think he can be at least the second best tight end in the Big 12. I don't know if he's going to surpass Brent Keithy, but I think he has the opportunity to be at least the second best tight end in the conference. And it could push to be the best. Who knows? But I think I'm really high on Cole Taylor. I think he's going to work his way into it to be a draft pick next year. I really do. And, of course, the offensive line, I don't really, not much else to say. Biggest question mark, obviously, how much will the loss of Zach Frazier, how much is that going to hurt this offensive line? That's going to be the big question mark. Can Brandon Yates step up and be even close to as good as what Zach Frazier? I'm not saying he won't be as good as Zach Frazier. I'm not saying he will. I don't know that anybody will be as good as Zach Frazier. But can he at least be 3/4 of what Zach Frazier was? Can he be enough to solidify the center of that O-line? I think he can. I felt like he struggled a little bit in the bowl game against North Carolina last year. But we got to remember that was his first game as a starter at that spot. He's had an entire offseason to work there, to get comfortable there, to work on his communication, to being the quarterback of that offensive line, to communicate with Garrett Green. He's had an entire summer in workouts, and he's going to have fall camp. So by the time the season rolls around, I'm confident Brandon Yates will be able to play that center spot again. He's not going to be Zach Frazier. He's probably not even going to be a second. He may not even get drafted. But I think he's going to be a solid enough player there that this offensive line will not take a massive step back from losing Zach. There may be things they can't do that they did a year ago, but I think Neil Brown and the offensive staff are good enough to scheme around that, and you really utilize the strength, which is going to be the left side of that line. I mean, Tomas Remak, Phil still had Tomas Remak as a second-team All-Big 12 guard. He's a very talented player. Wyatt Milam, projected to be potentially a very high first-round draft pick, potentially one of the best tackles in the country. The left side of that O-line is going to be absolutely dynamic. That's the part of the offensive line they're going to take advantage of and scheme for, right? Now, the other teams know that. So they're going to try to scheme up that too, but I still have faith in Neil Brown as a play caller to take advantage of those strengths there. And again, so anyway, let me know what positions do you think guys are going to step up at this year and really make strides at? I got another super chat I want to address. Appalachia Africa Twin, thank you for the $10 donation. He says, Couz, we got murdered in the secondary last year. Do you feel we improved enough this year to get some key stops and maybe get a close win or two throughout the year with the changes there? Yes. The safeties were most of the issue last year in coverage. They went out and addressed that by bringing in because I actually, we all know the good job Beanie Bishop did. And I felt like Malachi Ruffin was pretty solid too. The problem was there was nobody behind those guys on the depth chart that when they brought other guys in the game, they took a massive step back and those guys were just getting worn down. But the safety spot to me was the weak point of the team last year in pass coverage. Anthony Wilson's got another year, got a whole season now under his belt playing at the Power 5 level. That's going to help. Obviously, Aubrey Burks will be back and 100% healthy. That's going to help. They brought in Kokora Tarnu from Jacksonville State. I think he's 6'1", very long, very athletic. That's going to help. West Virginia's been undersized a lot in the secondary, really ever since Neil Brown's gotten there. They're addressing that now. They have addressed that through the portal. They now have guys with long arms. They have guys who can run. So when they do get beat on occasion, they're able to make up ground with their length and their athleticism. The guys they've had in the past have been 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot at the most. Harder to make up ground when you're shorter. You have shorter limbs, and maybe you're not quite as athletic. They're bringing in guys who now are not going to take a back seat in the athleticism department and aren't going to take a back seat from a length department either. And I like that. So I think they've addressed it with Tarnu. I think they've been playing Garnes at some safety spots. We could see him play safety some potentially. Obviously, Josiah Jackson apparently is coming on really well throughout the offseason. So I do listen. It's still a question mark. I'm not going to lie. There is a lot of questions in the secondary. Again, can the transfers? How long will it take them to adjust to the higher level of football? Back in 2022, they went out and got some guys from the lower levels. Those guys didn't pan out for the most part, especially at corner. We remember that. I don't remember one was Wesley McCormick. Don't remember the other one's name, but they brought in. I think his last name was Ajayi. Those guys did not perform well, in my opinion. Can the guys they brought in this year from lower levels, can they perform well? It's what I like about it, though. West Virginia didn't have Drew Fabianich in the athletic department and in the program then. Drew Fabianich is a former NFL scout. He knows talent. He knows what guys to go after in the portal, and that's what he specializes in. He's scouting the transfer portal to help bring guys in, and he's now pinpointing guys who he thinks will fit and are good enough to play at the Power 5 level. I think that is a huge X factor now that West Virginia didn't have 2 years ago. I think now that he's there, I think the guys they're going to bring in now will be better than the guys they were bringing in 2 years ago. So I am confident they'll be better. Are they going to be a top half of the Big 12 secondary? I don't think so. But I do think – but here's another thing we got to keep in mind, Appalachia Africa Twin. I shouldn't say top half. They can be top half of the league. I don't think they can be top – I don't think they're going to be a top 5 necessarily secondary. But what I do like, if they go to – they brought in Victor Cabral to help with the outside linebackers. He's going to coach them up on rushing the passer. If they can get to the quarterback more, create more chaos without having to rush their middle linebackers and without having to rush safeties as much, that's going to help a lot. That's one thing. West Virginia had a lot of sacks last year, but they were doing it mostly with linebackers and safeties. If Sean Martin can get to the quarterback more, if Edward Vestorinen can get to the quarterback more, if Ty French can come off the edge as good as they say he can, if Tyron Bradley improves in that area even more this year, they won't have to rely as much on the Trey Lathans, on the Aubrey Burkses of the world. They won't have to rely as much on those guys. Yes, they can blitz those guys in packages and on occasion to keep the defense or keep the offense guessing, but they won't have to do it as much. Those guys can stay back in coverage, and that'll help the secondary even more. So I think you got to look at more than just the secondary. You got to look at how can they rush the quarterback? How can they put pressure on the quarterback to help the secondary? If you leave the secondary out on an island and they have to cover these Power 5 level receivers for 4 and 5 seconds, not many guys are going to be able to do that. Okay. But if you only have to cover them for 2 seconds, you can do it. That's going to be a big factor this year too. How much pressure can they get on the quarterback is going to really help. So to answer your question, Appalachia, I do think they can. And I do think that will help them win more of those close games. And there are going to be a lot of close games. The Big 12 is going to be a league with a lot of parity. There's going to be a lot of close games, a lot of tight games. And I do think they can make enough stops to win some of those this year. Kenny says he really likes the 2 corners that came from Northwestern. They have length and they know Penn State. They played against him last year. Great point. Great point. I hadn't even thought about the Penn State angle there. WV Football Going Deep says Taylor will leave a cold tattoo on defense. I like that. That's funny. Talking about Cole Taylor. I'm really looking forward to Cole Taylor. I think he has a chance to be the best tight end West Virginia's had since Trayvon Wesco. And maybe even better than Trayvon Wesco at the end of the day. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. What are you guys looking for going into this football season for WVU? What are the position battles you're looking at? What are some of the players you expect to step up? I'd like to hear your thoughts on it as well. Cheers Beers Mountaineers says, how much pressure on the QB and how well we can stop the run? I think we stop the run and force teams to pass. Any safety can be decent when they know exactly where it's going. Great point. Great point, Cheers Beers Mountaineers. Here's the challenge, though, with that statement, and I don't disagree with it necessarily, but here's what's going to make it difficult. Have you looked at the running back rooms that West Virginia is going to be facing this year? Kansas has not only Devin Neal. By the way, they also have a guy named, what is his name? Daggone it. Not Giddens. Dick Giddens is at Kansas State. Anyway, they have another really good running back backing up Devin Neal. Kansas State not only has DJ Giddens, they went out and got Dylan Edwards from Colorado, who's a star, who's a stud. Don't forget we've got to play Ollie Gordon this year, arguably the best running back in college football. Oh, by the way, Texas Tech has Taj Brooks, another 1,000-yard rusher. Oh, by the way, UCF has R.J. Harvey, another 1,000-yard rusher, and behind him they've got another guy who, again, can't think of his name, who was another great running back that they brought in. I'm trying to think of the other guy, the other team. The Iowa State running back, Samu, could be a star. This league is absolutely loaded with good running backs. That's going to be the challenge. But yes, to answer your question, stopping the run is going to be critical. WV Football Going Deep, linebackers will be the big difference on defense. Koba was a liability in pass coverage. Great point. And about 50-50 in run fits. Athletic but error prone. That is a great point. I love Lee Koba. He played like a man possessed. He was extremely athletic, but he was not good in pass coverage. The players they're bringing in now, and they have now, I think, will be better. I think they'll be better in pass coverage. Obviously, time will tell. We'll see. But I think you're onto something there, WV Football Going Deep. I really like this might be my favorite room on the team. I'm not going to lie to you. I am in love with the linebacker room at West Virginia. I've heard, I think it was Chris Anderson, Mike Lazaza. I don't think they feel the same. And maybe, they probably know more than I do because they see the team up close and personal. But, man, I just think the talent level, I think they're looking more at the depth and at the age of the players. I'm looking at the talent. Guys, Josiah Trotter's dad is Jeremiah Trotter. The kid knows football. He's going to be a high IQ player, more than likely. They say I think it's him. I've heard he's a film junkie. He's going to be a high IQ player. For him missing last season, yes, physically he missed out, but he was still getting mental reps. He was still watching film, all of that. So he's not going to be as far behind maybe as we think. Okay. And he came in physically ready to go day one. He was like 240 pounds as a freshman. Physically, he's going to be able to hold up, right? So I'm not worried about that part of it. And Reed Carrico has been practicing with guys at Ohio State for the last 3 years. You don't think he's seen some talent? I love it. Joey says he's afraid we're going to have to outscore a lot of teams. Maybe, Joey. Maybe I'm too optimistic about it. I've been saying I don't think West Virginia's defense is going to necessarily be top 20 in the country or anything like that. But I do think they can be a top 50 defense in the country. And I think that will be I think West Virginia's offense can be one of the top 5 to 10 offenses in the nation. Okay. Overall. And I think if the offense is that good, the defense won't need to be elite. If they can just be top 50 in the country, that's going to be good enough, in my opinion. And one thing I haven't even mentioned is turnovers. Our defense needs to force more turnovers this year. More forced fumbles, especially. They got several interceptions last year, thanks to Beanie Bishop, mainly. But I'd like to see him force more turnovers, primarily more forced fumbles this year, and get those fumbles. Daniel says, if you look at the schedule, it's not as bad as people think bye weeks before or after any. That is true, Daniel. And I think I talked about that when I did my show about the schedule. That is one thing I like about it is they gave them, before they go to Arizona, they get a bye week. And I think they get one before Oklahoma State as well. So without having it in front of me. So I do like that. I do like that aspect of it. Again, I want to give a shout out to Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner. Thank them for being my channel sponsor. I have another sponsor I'm going to be adding to the list, to the team, I should say, starting August 1st. I'm very excited about that. You'll see who it is on August 1st. Excited about this new partnership I'm getting into. Go check out the Jonathan Martin podcast. He did his first show over there as well. He and I are teaming up to do our Golden Blue Breakdown show, but he's also doing his own podcast where he's going to talk about some different things. And, other than what we talk about on my show. Also, August 1st, we have the Mountaineer Roundtable. Earbeard over at the Earbeard podcast. I think it's Fear the Beard podcast, I think is what it's called. Another West Virginia podcaster. He's organized this Mountaineer Roundtable. It's myself, him, Jonathan Martin, Mike Ostie, the Raspy Boys kids, several others. A lot of West Virginia content creators and journalists are getting together to do this Mountaineer Roundtable discussion about the season. August 1st, 6 p.m. on X. If you're on X, it's going to be a Spaces. Come join us on August 1st at 6 o'clock. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think Jordan Couz might be involved in that as well. Can't remember. But nonetheless, if he's not, I'm going to invite him and make sure he is. But nonetheless, come check us out. It should be fun. And Daniel, there is a bye between KU at home and OU. That's what I thought, Daniel. But thanks for confirming it for me. Oh my gosh. What generosity. Appalachia Africa Twin. Thank you. Thank you, man, for the generosity. He says, here's a bottle of Four Roses single barrel bourbon for you, Couz. Great show. Four Roses. Now, that's a new one, Appalachia. I have not heard of that one. Four Roses bourbon. I'm going to have to check that one out. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm going to have to check out Four Roses. Not familiar with that one. Single barrel. I'll check it out, man. Thank you. Mr. Monkey says is predicting West Virginia 31, Penn State 24. I hope you're right. I would definitely take that one. Again, thanks Appalachia Africa Twin for the very generous donation. Thank you to everyone else who dropped super chats today. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget, on your way out, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit the like button. All of you can do that. You can all subscribe if you haven't yet. If you're watching on X, go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel, please. My next major goal is 10,000. It's a huge number for us YouTubers to get. It really shows that we're, I guess, quote unquote, legit. So please help me get there. Would really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Have a top shelf day. Cue Country Roads.